Connor,
Yeah.
after 10,000 years, the list goes on is free.
You're right.
I know. It may not... So this is going to be a little weird to talk about because obviously we don't release these videos after we've recorded them. We give it a while.
Mm-hmm.
But we've not actually recorded one of these in like a few months at this point.
No, you're right. So we recorded the Signalis and Shadow the Hedgehog episodes quite a bit earlier on, and I've only just recently been able to actually get those uploaded and out there. So
Yeah.
which has been good.
So if we're no longer funny, that's why.
Yeah, it's been a long, grueling
a long
month.
breakaway.
Yeah, we've been on a long journey, and that journey required us to
I think we've grown as people. We've learned a lot over the last few months. We're now ready to talk about The List Goes On in a new, exciting, dynamic way.
that we have, but
Although I must say, just for the sake of the audience, I am battle damaged today.
yeah.
I was in the hospital until 3 a.m. last night. So if this becomes very sleepy, that is why.
Yeah, we'll have that same Signalis energy.
Yeah.
I have also sprained something or had some kind of problem because my ribs are all tightened up, or at least whatever's under my ribs is all tightened up. So
We're both not in our best way, and do you know who the culprit is?
I think I know exactly what did it.
Yeah, Geist did this to us.
Geist has fucking wounded us. Geist did this damn. We played a bit of Geist.
We did. We've decided in our infinite wisdom that it would be wise for us to play little sections of the game on the list before talking about them.
Yeah.
Just to refresh our memories, just to remember how the controls feel, how everything looks and all that such.
Yeah.
And Geist has hurt our souls. It has reduced our energy to nil. It has taken from us everything and left us with nothing.
It really has. This is it's something that's not strictly necessary every time for every game, but I think with Geist, this was one of the first ones we played, a lot like Shadow and Clock Tower, and as a result of that, we needed the refresher because it had been almost 3 years.
Yeah, and unlike Clock Tower and Shadow, Geist wasn't a game that we particularly enjoyed, even for its bad qualities.
No.
And also, we'll get into it later, but due to the way in which we played Geist, it didn't stick in the memory very particularly well.
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
I think of anything because I get kind of mixed messages on the reception of Geist from people because I know a few people who are very, very fond of this and think it's a very good game. Although I am not convinced that they have played this game anytime recently. Like, they played it within the last 15 years.
Yeah, they definitely have very fond memories of playing it as a young person rather than modern Geist memories.
Exactly, because I just don't see what they see in this. And we probably dealt it a fairly unfortunate hand with just the circumstances that we played through it. Well, I guess that's both of the times we've done it now.
Yeah, both of the times we've done it, yeah.
But
hey, if Geist was a game that was to raise our spirits and to restore our positivity, it would have done it either of the two times.
It would have.
And all it did was contribute to our sorrow.
It really did. That being said, well, there's positives, which I think we'll get into when we get to the nitty-gritty.
So I think the first thing I'd like to discuss is the context of when we played Geist. Because as you said, Geist was the third game on our list.
Yeah.
But what was fascinating, what is interesting about it to me is that it's not actually a game that either of us have any background with.
No, I remember after Shadow, because at that point we decided we'll alternate between games and we'll pick ones differently, and you went like, I'm interested in trying Geist.
Yeah.
Which you had gotten me a copy of Geist for a birthday as kind of a gag present.
I hadn't gotten you a present of Geist, a copy of Geist. I had already owned a copy of Geist and no longer wished to do so.
So you offloaded it
so
onto
I offloaded it onto you, and I was like, here you go, Connor, enjoy, it's Geist. Have fun.
Well, I mean, we didn't play it a whole lot before we decided to do this together, so...
No. Yeah, so it was around 2020. We had just finished Shadow the Hedgehog, and we were battered and bruised. We were down on the ropes, but we wanted to bounce back, and so we played Geist.
We did. Honestly, I feel like the games that we played in the very early stages of the list feel like a series of unfortunate events where every time we're just like, oh, this will be the light at the end of the tunnel, and it just kept...
No, it kept getting worse and worse and worse.
Until we reached a beautiful golden beacon that was... a combo of Silent Hill 2 and Ridge Racer Type 4.
That was a beautiful time. Well, it's because at the start of The List Goes On, when we didn't even realise this was going to be a consistent the rest of our lives, quote-unquote, type thing, we didn't want to play good games, because we thought that went against the spirit of the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was especially precious about that.
Yeah. And then I think we got to the end of our Shadow Geist Legend of K combo run, and I was just lying back in my chair, and I was like, Connor, can we play something good? I'm sick of playing bad games.
And I'm like, what do you mean? Legend of K is the greatest game ever made.
Oh, well, we'll get on to that. Connor. We'll have our most controversial and furious podcast yet when I say Legend of K is merely okay.
I feel like that's going to be the least watched because no one knows what the fuck Legend of K is. At least Geist had some profile or some identity.
Yes,
but...
so now that we've got that out of the way, should we talk about Geist?
Well, of course. Absolutely. By all means.
So, Geist, what's your favourite year, Connor?
Oh. I mean, are we allowed to pick, like, any year?
Any year of all the years.
Oh, Alright, well, pretty big fan of 1285.
That one was good. I'm going to say, though, 2005.
2005
was a great year.
Oh,
fantastic year.
I just don't quite remember how the 100-Year War was going on during that year.
No. But what did happen during 2005 was that Resident Evil 4 released.
All right, I'm listening.
Shadow the Hedgehog released. And Geist released.
It did.
Yeah. 2005, the year of Geist. So, for anyone who doesn't know, which is probably most of you, now that I think about it, Geist is a Nintendo-published first-person shooter for the Nintendo Gamecube. It's developed by a company called N-Space, who was putting out such classics as Mary, Kate and Ashley's License to Drive, and other such beloved entries in that series.
I'll put it on the list.
Yeah. I'm sure we can get a 2-hour podcast out of that. And after that, they then went on to go be a Call of Duty DS developer. They became kind of the premium first-person shooter DS people.
Well, they did do good work on that DS because things like Call of Duty Black Ops has like 60 frames per second gameplay and everything. Yeah. And also, they're probably so used to making first-person shooters with kind of gimped controls that they were probably like, you know what?
Yeah.
We could do this on the DS.
We can't cut it in the realm of console shooters, so the DS is our natural home.
Oh my god, yeah.
So what's fun about Geist is that it's actually the second M-rated GameCube game, or Nintendo game, that they ever published. Yeah, the first being Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem.
Which is kind of beloved.
Yes, that game is very well regarded by many nerds and losers who were like, oh, it is very deep because there was a book.
But Ash, you're a survival horror fan, and I would imagine you'd be all over it.
I do want to go back to it. I think maybe that should be on the list at some point.
Yeah?
We could talk about that.
I'd like that.
At a later date.
Yeah.
But I think the most telling thing about Geist being Nintendo's second M-rated game is that they then didn't make another one until 2012.
What was that? Devil's Third?
No, it was Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge for the Wii U.
Okay,
yeah.
That. Oh yeah, that would make sense because they'd probably be thinking, oh, that was a famous like NES game, and we'd want to
Yeah, and they're trying to get that hardcore cred back to the Wii branding, right? That's kind of what their whole vibe was. That's why they had Zombie U at launch and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's true as well.
So it's kind of an interesting time for Nintendo because the GameCube wasn't doing very well. God bless its little soul. And Nintendo was desperately trying to court that third-person shooter, that mature game audience that was on the other two consoles, which had become so prevalent in gaming culture at the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at things like the creators of Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter at the time, who were going, yeah, we wanted to make these third-person platforming games, and then called Grand Theft Auto came out, and then every kid wanted to play Grand Theft Auto, which wasn't true, but Grand Theft Auto was the hottest shit, and from that point on, gaming just became way more mature.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Xbox pushed itself as so hardcore. Halo was the biggest thing since sliced bread at that point in time.
Like, online multiplayer was becoming a huge thing with all the competitive bravado that brings about.
Yep,
and for a few years there, Nintendo said, we could do that. We can try and be that company. So, of course, there's games like Eternal Darkness. They got the Resident Evil series exclusive to the GameCube for a while.
They did.
Resident Evil 4, which I've already talked about. That was a big critical success for them.
Yeah.
And then Geist, which is, as I'm sure we're all aware, and as Reggie Fils-Aimé, former president of Nintendo of America, called it, the Halo killer. This is going to be the one.
Oh, that slaps me on the fucking knee. Oh, shit. Actually,
and what was fun about that was that information only came out a few years ago, that people were like, basically like Reggie's marketing people were saying to him, no, this is going to be the one. This is going to be what makes the GameCube breakthrough in North America. This is going to kill Halo. And he was like, yes, Geist. Finally, our time has come.
So that this wasn't public. This wasn't anything that people knew about.
No, this is all like internal marketing guff and like why they were pushing Geist and the whole what they saw Geist as being able to do for them.
Oh my fucking god!
Well, you've got to think that to Microsoft, Halo just seemed to came out of nowhere, right? Like they just signed this random developer that was making this weird game, and suddenly it exploded into this massive thing.
Yeah.
So who's to say that wasn't going to happen for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way, as a big fan of Halo myself, I'm kind of surprised when I look back at the first Halo, and I kind of go like, all right, this is definitely doing some really cool stuff at the time, and frankly, Geist could have learned some fucking lessons from it. But yeah, that being a big success was a huge surprise. Whereas Geist not being a huge success is not a surprise, having played it. Which
no, and I even think even if Geist was well executed upon, I don't think it would still be very successful.
No,
because it's a weird idea. It's not exactly a very mainstream premise.
No, unless suddenly everyone gets really, really into ghost puzzle games.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Ghost Trick also released a critical and commercial, well, not critical, but commercial failure. So Ghost games just not doing so hot.
No, just Ghosts not big on the market. This was a few years before the kind of zombie craze as well.
Oh, yeah.
So
it was, yeah.
It's not about the spirits, it's all about the corpses. That's what I always say. Gaming is a walking corpse.
Dude, corpses are so hot right now.
Oh, dude. Probably, yeah, if they're left out in the sun, it's currently like...
Yeah. So I do want to take a brief moment. I know we've talked before about the little tiny box room that we record, the list goes on in. But we are also in the middle of British summer.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to say, oh, it's 28 degrees, it's so hot, we're boiling in here.
What's that in Fahrenheit? Fuck.
155, let's just say.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. But because of the requirements for good acoustics, we actually have like the curtains closed and stuff like that. So this is basically like a heat box that we're in right now.
It is,
we're putting ourselves under inhumane and cruel conditions to bring you this Geist analysis.
Yeah, you might be thinking to yourself, that's not a big deal. Turn on the AC.
You ever been in Britain in the winter, my friends?
No, this house was built just after Queen Victoria died, so I don't think there was really
We're more concerned of keeping the heat in than keeping it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Which it wasn't. It's not very fucking good at that either.
No. But anyway, Connor, do you want to give me the premise for Geist?
Certainly. So, Geist is a first-person shooter game that involves a very distinct idea of effectively you're not so much playing as John Doom Superman with a gun, so much as you are playing as John Raimi Ghost Man, who at some point gets his spirit separated from his body and has the power to possess other people and objects in the environment.
Yeah. But people can only be possessed if they're slightly perturbed.
Yeah, if they call it scared, but honestly,
if they have to be spooked by something.
Yeah, all you have to really do is knock over a bin and they go, huh, and then you can.
Well, no, Connor, let's give Geist a little bit more credit. You first have to make a telephone ring, and then they'll be slightly scared, and then you make a coffee cup fall over, and they're like, "That's it, I'm freaking out. I could be possessed right now."
I was gonna say this is we had a moment while playing this game where one of the doors just suddenly shut. And it was probably to do with the draft or something, but at that point we were like, damn, my house is more possessed than Geist right now. It's as spooky as scares. But
so you're playing as John Raimi, who is apparently a biological scientist who works with the military.
Yeah.
And you've been asked to infiltrate a mysterious biological warfare corporation based in southern France because they're up to no good, as you might expect.
Yeah.
However, during this expedition in which you are raiding this base, you're about to leave the area. This is actually a pretty cool setup because you're about to leave the area. It's like you're doing this big shooting section. It's all very conventional and things like that. But as you're leaving, one of your fellow soldiers becomes possessed by one of these ghosts and then shoots all of your men and then captures you, and that's how the game begins.
Yeah, you wake up in a simulation that is training you on how to draw the life out of plants and how to possess creatures and that kind of thing to be part of some kind of a ghost warrior program.
Yeah, it's called Project Z.
Project Z.
Oh, sorry, Project Z, I probably should say.
They could have called it Project G, and it would have worked much better.
But no, Z is the most evil letter. God.
Oh,
I'm very sleepy.
It's either that or X.
No, because X is straight edge.
Oh, that's true. X can be a cool guy move.
X is more of a modifier.
Yeah, like Chemical X could be for good
X,
or evil.
Like the X Troopers.
Yeah. Project Q.
Not
quite
really,
not quite working so well.
That sounds like a code name for the GameCube.
Probably, yeah. That's a fun fact. That's what Nintendo's actually calling their next console.
Project Q?
Yeah,
Wow,
Project
this
Q.
is hot information. Oh, we can just do that, right?
Yeah,
We can just say, oh yeah, next Nintendo. We heard from Geist. We heard from our Geist contacts
Geist.
that next Nintendo console is going to have Geist 2.
Oh shit!
Call of Duty 5, and it's going to be more powerful than God.
Holy shit!
Yeah, so put all Nintendo fan sites, just post that. We have sources, we swear.
We've done it. Like, just source the list goes on. Refer people over to us. It'll be great.
We've got to get those numbers up. Come on.
But although this game is initially set itself out to be a first-person shooter, right down to I think most of the characters you can control have a gun of some kind.
Yeah. Even if they don't have much cause to have one.
No, it's more of a puzzle game where you're trying to figure out what kind of things you can possess in your environment in order to progress. So there might be a barrier that you need to get by. There's like an obstacle or something like that, and it ideally the best ideas for it is that you need to combine being able to be a wibbly ghost that can go through cracks in the wall for some reason rather than just go through walls, but it's for level design. You have to combine that with the people and objects in the environment.
So you'll be in like a big area, there's lots of different elements going around, and you'll solve those puzzles by first figuring out how to possess certain characters by scaring them, and then using those characters to access new areas for new characters for you to scare, and then you can progress through the game basically.
Yeah, in a way, which is it's sort of not too uncommon as a kind of puzzle trope, is you're expanding the tool set.
Exactly, and I think those are the best sections in the game, really, is when it actually lets you it's just you, a ghost with like 5 different guys who have different abilities, and you're just trying to get through this area. That's when the game really shines the most. It's
interesting as well, because I want to pivot back to the sort of development and such of the game, because there was a bit of a clash, as far as I understand, of interests for this game.
Yeah, so I believe my research into the game's development, a little bit like Clock Tower 3, there's not actually that much information out there because it's Geist. But basically, Nintendo was looking for projects that would fit their new adult-oriented portfolio. And N-Space were making this demo of a game where you played as a ghost who would possess people and then shoot them. They then submitted it to Nintendo, and Nintendo took it on and said, that's great, we're going to make this amazing first-person puzzle game. They called it a first-person adventure, which is also the same term they used for Metroid Prime. So I think what Nintendo was envisioning was a game in which you can shoot, but shooting is not the focus. Whereas N-Space, the developers, are making a game where you shoot, but also you can be a ghost.
Yeah, and apparently that resulted in development kind of going on a bit longer and things being...
Yeah, because the game was announced at E3 2002 and then didn't come out until 2005, which is quite a long time.
That is
in that era.
That is a lot, yeah. So
not now, but back then it was a long time.
Yeah, which I'm guessing they just had to like work through.
I think the puzzle sections had to be added in later.
Oh,
I think from what I recall, Nintendo looked at it and they were like, "Why are there no ghost puzzles?" And they were like, "Because we're making a shooter." And they were, "No, you're making a ghost puzzle game."
I see. Well, that makes sense. It's interesting then that the kind of meddling hands ended up producing the kind of better half of the game because. Do we want to get into the nitty gritty of how Geist plays?
Yeah, so let's talk about the gameplay of Geist. Yeah, so I presume everyone listening to this is a fellow gamer. They're all epic. They all have 10 million gamer score.
Yeah,
and they drink Dorito. I don't know.
They drink Dorito.
They drink Dorito. I presume everyone has a similar experience to what I'm about to describe, which is when you pick up a controller, begin playing a game. You start moving, and you just go, oh no, this isn't going to be good, is it?
Yeah, which was a major portent from when we were playing Shadow the Hedgehog as well.
Yes, that was a very similar experience,
Yes.
But Geist had the same thing, where the minute that you start moving Sam Raimi around, this isn't a very good feeling first-person shooter.
Yeah, so it's interesting when you consider... Because the control isn't great. The main thing to consider with first-person shooters at this time is that, naturally, there were a few kind of approaches to do it. One that was a big, long-term kind of mainstay was the GoldenEye approach.
Yeah, where the cursor kind of snaps back to the center whenever you move it.
Yeah, and you kind of more pan the cursor around the screen rather than fully aim in a 360 way.
So that's like GoldenEye, Time Splitters, all games with that legacy, really.
Yeah. You then got something like Halo, which, in my opinion, is probably the better approach to kind of do...
well, Halo is now the modern standard, right? All first-person shooters control vaguely like Halo do.
Yeah, like
Halo do? Halo does.
Halo do. And if it's not Halo, it's Call of Duty, which was derivative of Halo in a way.
That was when they cracked first-person shooters on consoles, was with Halo.
Pretty much, yeah. Much to some people don't like Halo being praised to that high of a standard, but that's mainly because they're probably part of the third category, which is the PC-oriented kind of way of doing first-person shooters. Your Source Engine stuff, your Doom stuff, that kind of thing.
Very quick motions and things, right?
Yeah, and it's very much reliant on you having a mouse and having that kind of fluency there. I guess you could also argue light guns is another way, but for the sake of this, I won't sort of go into
light guns
that.
are a whole different thing.
Yeah, but as far as I can tell, Geist is none of these.
Well, the basics of it, I think, are the same as Halo, where it's left stick to move and then right stick is all of your camera motion. I think it's just Halo but bad.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's just Halo shooting but poorly executed upon.
I just don't think it feels like Halo at all, to be honest. But maybe there's a nuance of the movement that I kind of consider that because it just this is incredibly floaty.
It feels like there's a slight delay.
It really is not comfortable to control in any way. Aiming is incredibly hard, and as a result of that, I kind of think thank fuck for the fact that most enemies that you fight die in basically one hit.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you. I think the first weapon you use is a kind of handgun pistol, and you have plenty of health, so you can kind of and also NPCs that fight the enemies with you. So, so you're not taking a ton of damage immediately. You can try to get used to the controls, but even so, it does feel like you're going through just this quagmire. And
that first pistol that you have is not a very good introduction to the game's shooting mechanics because it's very piddly.
Yeah,
like it feels like you're shooting a pea shooter. You're like.
Yeah,
like it has no impact at all.
No, it really doesn't at all. What I will say does give the game some level of impact, though, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here a bit, but I'm going to throw Geist a bone. Geist's ragdoll physics are fucking hysterical.
Oh, yeah, like, people just go flinging across the world whenever you kill them. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's a very... Okay, ragdolls are a very cheap way of getting a laugh out of me in games, because they look silly and goofy. They give a kind of texture to the kind of physics engine, and you know...
I mean, they make the world feel a bit more dynamic as well. Like, you're not just watching canned animations over and over. There's kind of a dynamicism to it all.
Yeah, but every game, especially in this era where physics engines, like, varied from game to game, like, in this game in particular, the ragdoll physics just, they fly around like they weigh nothing. They're like inflatable balloon men. And
to kind of make an interesting callback, it kind of reminds me of the way that we talked about Clock Tower 3's motion capture, where it felt like a hot new tech that people were keen to put into their games, but they just put too much of it in and had no sense of how to really combine it to make it look natural, so everyone just goes flying across the screen.
They do.
And like speed lines come off of them as they fall and stuff.
It's like every body has helium inside of it, but every limb feels like it's got a weight inside of it that like drags everything down. If you compare it to something like, say, Oblivion's physics engine, which is very weird, like things kind of if things are in the air, they kind of descend very slowly and it's not quite right. And then there's also, I'm quite curious about this, because you've recently played Shadow of the Colossus, right?
I have recently played Shadow of the Colossus.
And Wanda just fucking gets flung around by everything.
So I think it's very important for that game's sense of scale and to show the player what they're doing. They're climbing this giant thing. Wanda does. The thing is that the thing about Shadow of the Colossus is that the physics are actually part of the gameplay, because you have ragdoll physics applied to yourself, and if you get flung around, it's difficult to control yourself.
Yeah.
So that's an instance where it's done right, because it's actually part of the mechanics rather than just being something that happens.
Yeah, it's not just a little feature of the engine.
Yeah, like Shadow of the Colossus speedruns basically involve using those physics to fling Wanda up a Colossus in one giant leap, basically.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
I can only think of really two other games on the immediate top of my head where I'm like, oh, the ragdoll physics might be better than this, because genuinely, I love the Geist ragdolls. They are so silly. I can only think of two. One of which is Team Fortress 2. Something about the ragdolls in that are really, really good. Like, because I think the physics gets amplified for ragdolls, so they go flying. If you get blown up without going into pieces, you just get shot across the map. And in a similar fashion, another game on our list, which is Alone in the Dark, the 2008 reboot. The ragdoll physics in that are fucking immense. They are so good.
See, my immediate response would be the Souls series of games, in which enemies that you kill just like bleh, and then like they cling to your character as well, so they can fall onto you and get stuck, and you can like drag them around, and like they get stuck to your foot and stuff.
How could I forget about that? That's one of my fondest memories of the Undead Burg. It's just those fucking skeletons just flying around, like, and you just pushing them around and everything. It's so good. I fucking love ragdoll.
So that's a good part of Geist, but in terms of the actual butter and bread and butter, getting confused. In terms of the actual bread and butter shooting, it's all very serviceable at best, bad at worst, basically.
Yeah, I'm not, like, serviceable in that you can finish the game.
Yeah, you can get through it and it's fine.
But it's very uncomfortable. I feel as though we were sort of powering through this.
Yeah. Playing it with a GameCube controller as well only amplifies these issues because the GameCube's second analog stick is this tiny yellow nub rather than a full stick, and like controlling a shooter with that just feels not great at all.
Yeah, I'll defer to another 2005 game here. If you put me in a room and you had a GameCube with Geist in it, and you said, okay, you can play an hour of Geist to leave this room.
Yeah.
Or here is a PlayStation 2 that has Star Wars Battlefront 2 on it, and you have to play 24 hours full stop of Star Wars Battlefront on the hardest difficulties to get out of the room instead. I pick Battlefront.
Yeah, there's no joy in controlling Geist.
No, there really isn't. It's actually, then again, I realize I think everyone who's listening to me would say that sounds like a good time, Connor. What are you talking about? So
let's sign me up. We can do that.
Fuck yeah!
Charity stream. Here we go.
Yeah, that'd be great. But yeah, it's really not a well controlling game, all things considered.
Yeah, but then those are the shooting controls. What about the Geist controls?
Yeah, so this is the weird thing, right? When we were replaying this, we found these floaty controls and we were struggling with them. And
yeah, because the first level is like entirely first-person shooter. You are not a ghost yet. You were just shooting things.
Yeah, you're just shooting things. And you said to me, is the reason they've done this is to make you feel more like a ghost, so other ghost sections going to feel more natural?
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that would make a heck of a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then we played as the ghost, and the controls are different. The ghost controls control like a normal fucking person.
Yeah, the ghost controls are actually way better. It's really confusing.
It's very weird. It's almost kind of Source Engine-y in a way, and it's like, how the fuck did what happened here?
Well, yeah, what was going through their heads when they were like, yeah, let's just make the normal controls terrible, but the ghost controls pretty smooth.
I'm not even sure if it was a thought through their heads so much as maybe they'd rushed it, and somehow they had a second set of programmers who just did the ghost stuff.
Yeah, and you could argue that the ghost sections of the game are the primary sections, so they put more focus into them rather than the shooting parts.
Yeah, which is weird given that this game has boss fights and.
It has boss fights.
Yeah, you use, in quite a few of the boss fights, you use ghost mechanics, but most of them still involve you having to possess a guy with a gun and shooting the enemy.
And it's really annoying because if you then lose that guy with the gun, you get a game over because you haven't got any guys with guns to possess.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you unpossess a guy, you've got to make sure you hide him in a little corner before leaving his body, and it's like, oh, this is really, really stupid.
It really is.
When you're possessing individual targets, the way it works is that the L button is your unique ability. So everything that you can do that's unique to that character will be on L. So for instance, if you're playing a soldier, you can aim down the sights. If you're playing a rat, you can squeak.
Oh yeah, that's something that people need to know is you can possess.
You can possess all kinds of wacky things like animals, paint cans, phones. And when you're a phone, you're like a first-person view inside the circuit board looking out.
Oh yeah, it's quite a cute little detail.
And like when you're a rabbit, you can see the rabbit's little nose bopping along as you control it.
I just wanted to be that rabbit forever.
Yeah, and they took it away from you.
They did.
Yeah. So yeah, it's got this kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like individual targets have their own special abilities, and you can use them to then solve puzzles or to do certain things, and it's quite fun like that, seeing all the different combinations of items and abilities and stuff. I wish there was more of it, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. How does it kind of affect the eyes? Is it pleasing to the eye, Ash?
In terms of the game's visuals, we're actually looking at a lovely picture of John Raimi, main protagonist here. The game has a 2005 realistic style. I wouldn't say it has much artistic flair.
No.
I think the only exceptions are a few individual parts of the game, and also there is kind of like a ghost energy that resides over the place, where it's like little wisps of light and energy pulsing through the air.
Yeah.
And those can be quite pleasing. But other than that, the whole game is basically set in this kind of grey military factory. Like, that isn't really engaging to look at.
Yeah, sort of a purpley grey is the colour I would associate the most with Geist.
It's got this real military gung-ho aesthetic as well. Like, I remember the first section, because like you've got an inside man at Vaux Corporation, which is the evil company that you're investigating. And like when you find him and you throw him a gun, he's like, "It's about damn time," and he reloads his gun, and it's all very machismo and stuff.
Oh, that's a good reminder as well of how the cutscenes are fully voiced in this way. Of course, John Raimi doesn't talk. They've gone with the silent protagonist thing with him.
Yeah, no, John Raimi is a strong silent type.
Yeah, but then you go into the game itself, and whenever you talk to NPCs, you do a kind of Oblivion-style zoom in on the character's head.
And they do that, like, they have dialogue and they go rah,
Yeah.
and they make that little noise.
Yeah, it's completely silent. It's just text.
Yeah.
And it's interesting actually because a lot of the points in the game, if you're possessing a person, you can just talk to other people in the environment.
Yeah, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, I like that you can do that, and they respond to you differently depending on who you're possessing.
Exactly. And like as you go through the game, there's an ever increasing sense of paranoia as people realize that the people they're speaking to might be possessed by a ghost, and they're like, "Oh, I might have to shoot you if you do anything crazy because you might be John Raimi."
Yeah, and that's a really cool part.
Yeah.
But dang it, I've lost my train of thought. I'm a fool. It's been stolen from me by John Raimi.
John Raimi stole your thoughts.
Oh no. But yeah, I also wanted to briefly say the cutscenes as well. Because for some reason the cutscenes take the same format as these one-on-one talking sections. So,
where the bottom third of the screen is black.
Yeah, it's completely black, and they just zoom in on that. And we this is a 4x3 game. There's no widescreen option. We played it on a widescreen television, and it was a bit like off-putting after a while because I just like when it takes off that third of the screen, it's a rectangle.
Yeah, you're basically looking at like a postage stamp of a game
for
a second. I also want to take a brief moment to have our regularly scheduled interlude of We Are European, as you might be aware, because this game is it says all over the box and in the instruction manual everywhere that this game only runs at 60 hertz. Which, if you don't know, basically back in the day, European TVs ran at a slower refresh rate than American TVs.
Yeah.
And because of that, our games are like 20% slower than than American games.
Yeah.
Like we would play Crash Bandicoot on the PS1 and it would literally run slower.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, this game is stepping into a bold new era of 60 hertz only, and it's very keen to be like, don't play this if you have a 50 hertz TV. You can't do it. You can't play Geist.
It's interesting, yeah, because this is a 2005 game.
Yeah.
So I don't know how widespread 60 hertz televisions would have been.
I think because we were getting into the age of HD TV, so it was definitely coming to a very quick close. It's just weird because like it has the 60 hertz thing. The game has the Nintendo Wii health and safety warning baked into the software. So it feels like it's very much coming up to the Wii era of games, and yet it's still not in widescreen, which is really surprising to me.
Yeah, good lord, it really is. It's just very odd to look at because there's like having replayed it today, I've kind of been thinking because we have this sort of on and off conversation of like, does Geist look good for the time?
I think Geist is technically competent, but its art style is very derivative and boring.
Yeah.
Like, because we're looking at this model of John Raimi on our screens right now, and he's a pretty high fidelity model for 2005. Yeah, like, he looks alright.
It's not even his in-game like character model, really. It's like a cutscene model. Which,
yeah.
I tend to find that protagonist models tend to be some of the highest fidelity ones.
Yeah, but I think all the environments were quite nicely rendered as well. It's just they just aren't rendering interesting things.
Yeah, and it runs smoothly as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't have any frame drop issues or anything, which is. This seems to be quite common for the GameCube, that it's quite solid. Yeah. It was really only Shadow the Hedgehog that's let me down so far.
Well, it was better than that PS2 version, I can tell you that much for free.
God, yeah. I can't imagine this game running on a PS2. They could try, but...
Connor, I've always found over the course of our long friendship that you have something more of a musical ear than I do. You're better at remembering songs, you've got more of things, like, of value to say about music, whereas I'm just like, it's funny. What would you tell me about Geist's music?
Well, I'm glad that you decided to draw attention to this during fucking Geist of all games.
Could you give us a rendition of some of the Geist music?
Oh my god, it's... No, I can't. It's so unmemorable.
No, I can. It goes like this. That's how I remember it in my head.
What? It's like the
white noise.
The white, like the death monitor sound.
Yeah. I just hear a person dying when I think of Geist.
Oh no, sorry, my mistake. There's the intro, the intro splash. Where it's
the theme of Geist.
It's like a MIDI drum and then an opera sound. I think all of the songs are made on MIDI. They are very, very generic. They're drum fills. They're like orchestral sort of whatevers.
Yeah.
There's not.
There's no melodies.
No, it doesn't really have its own flair. And my god, it's a dang shame, isn't it?
I think it's a very conservative game to look at. Like, it doesn't really go anywhere crazy with its visuals. The music is all very pedestrian. It's not engaging in that sense.
No.
I think the only thing it really has going for it is the ghost puzzles. And I don't think even those are executed well enough to hold an entire game together.
Christ, no. It's a damn shame. I guess the voice acting is competent.
Yeah.
And
But that's the thing. So many elements of this game are competent. It's not like Clock Tower 3 where it's a complete trash fire all the way through. Like, there's obviously talented people at N-Space who did some good work on this game.
Yeah.
It just never really coalesces into a cohesive and appealing whole, does it?
No, it doesn't. I think it's really conceptually what kind of makes Geist sort of falter, because it's a cool idea for a smaller niche game that is being pushed to something bigger, and it can't juggle what was expected of it.
No.
And it really bleeds into the way that it's sort of its identity of what it is.
Yeah.
People don't remember Geist. Like,
no, it's kind of been left by the wayside, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's almost kind of considered like one of those sort of jokey, obscure 6th generation game. Remember Geist?
I'm fairly certain the only context in which Geist is sprung up in the modern day is to say, oh, it's one of the M-rated Nintendo games. And that's the only place I hear it.
Pretty
Although
much.
I will note, once again with interest, welcome back to our European Minute. Actually, this is our British Minute, because this game has been rated by the British Board of Film Classification, who is a recurring element in this podcast, because I love talking about them. They've only given this game a 15.
Yeah, this is... I have a few thoughts on that, because I found from my experience that's quite common.
Yes,
here.
I think the BBFC is very... You need to do a lot to get them to give you an 18, basically.
Yeah, they're... because... by comparison in the United States, a lot of games seem to be rated M.
Yeah. I think it's because there's no in between T and M.
No.
Whereas here we have 12, 15, 18,
Yeah, we do. Because there's quite a few, and if you compare it with the European mainland as well, they've got PEGI, which we
have now.
We have now as a widespread thing, but that's 3, 7, 12, 15, no 6, 16, 16 and 18.
Yeah.
And PEGI is a lot more harsh. A lot of games, especially in 2011, would get 18s from PEGI, and then in the UK they would be bumped down to a 15.
Yeah, it's super weird.
Skyrim has decapitations within the first couple of minutes, and that got down to a 15. Space Marine is very cartoony gore, but it's still very gory, and that got down to a 15.
Yeah.
And I think it might have been Deus Ex had the same thing happen to it too.
I think the one I always remember fondly is that Silent Hill 2, a game about sexual violence, has a 15 in the UK.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Yeah.
I think Gears of War as well, but
really?
I could be wrong. Yeah,
that doesn't seem
Gears
right.
of War 3 might be, but that's a weird one.
Anyway, so one of the difficulties of talking about Geist, now that we've kind of walked everyone through the gameplay sections, is that we played Geist 3 years ago.
And that means our memories of it are very hazy.
So we were originally going to do a beat by beat, like section by section description of Geist, much in the same way we did in Clock Tower 3. However, we do not remember how the game goes.
Not really, no. So this is going to be a bit more of a broader stroke, so we just talk about little highlights of it that we sort of loosely remember. Because honestly, for the small section of the game that we revisited, things really flooded back to us. I was quite surprised to find how I went, you were talking about a boss that has like a minigun and throws grenades, and I was like, I don't remember this at all. And then we got about a few doors away, and then it all came back, and I was like, oh my fucking god.
All the Geist memories came rushing back. We're actually going to entitle this video Geist Highlights Compilation.
Oh god.
Because we're about to talk about all the best sections of Geist.
Geist lights.
Lights. Look out for the Geist lights in my eyes.
Hi, Geist. Geist lights. That's like Ghost Light is like a term.
Yeah,
I think.
They're a publisher of niche boutique Japanese games in the PS2 era.
Wait, is that a real thing? Is that real?
Ghost Light. Yeah, they published Nocturne in the West. Well, in the West in Europe.
Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne.
Or as we call it, Shin Megami Tensei Lucifer's Call.
Right.
Yeah, please.
Alright, you know what? Nocturne's a better name. I'm going to put it out there. It's fucking funny that it's called Lucifer's Call.
No, Nocturne is way better.
Yeah. Did more for us than Kingdom Hearts 2 ever did,
Exactly, there you go. And you keep that in mind when you're at the polling stations.
Yeah. Remember to vote for Shin Megami Tensei 3 at next year's elections. God.
Alright, so, Geist. Geist opens with a fucking terrible, dumb, idiot, stupid stage where you're playing as John Raimi, who directed Spider-Man. And you have a fucking stupid-ass pistol, and you're with, like, 7 Marines, and you're going through this lab, shooting down guys, and it feels terrible. And then you download the Ghost virus onto a USB stick, and you look at little ghost cell data, and you're like, ooh, ghosts.
Your fucking energy just went from, alright, let's be fair about Geist, to be like, this fucking game.
Yeah, I suddenly remembered Geist, and now I'm furious. I'm gonna get my revenge on Geist.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful pivot, because it's how we felt.
Yeah.
Because you go through, like, 3 stages with Geist, which is, oh, it's this curious little game. Oh my fucking god, this is awkward little game. And then, oh my god, Geist.
Yeah.
Oh, stop going, Geist. Let me win.
So anyway, you then encounter the game's first boss fight, which is against the Day of the Tentacle. Where a big tentacle comes out of this, like, over this walkway. It skewers a man, blood sprays everywhere, he's dead. He falls into the ectoplasm.
This ain't your grandma's Nintendo.
Exactly, this GameCube fucks. You then engage in what I can call the greatest Souls-like boss fight of all time, in which a single tentacle fires green orbs at you and you just strafe left and right shooting at it.
It's like a bullet hell.
Yeah, is it bullet hell or is it bullet heaven? That's all I'm saying.
Nothing about Geist is heaven.
No.
Except those ragdoll physics.
Exactly. Those ragdoll physics is where it's at.
Those motherfuckers are going to the moon.
Truly, this boss fight is literally, it has one attack. And you just move left and right and you dodge it and you shoot your shit pistol like pew, pew, pew.
Yeah. And then it fucks off. You don't even kill it. It just fucks off. It crawls away.
Yeah, it crawls away. It's like, I can't take on John Raimi.
I like one of the NPCs as well kind of says to you, like, let's talk about what that thing was later.
Yeah. That's not worth mentioning now. Let's get the fuck out of here. Because that's the thing. Even though you have an inside man at Vork's laboratories, you don't even know that there are ghosts.
No.
You just think they're developing some kind of biological weapon.
Yeah.
So, like, all this, like, crazy supernatural shit that starts happening comes as a real surprise to the Marines.
Yeah, it might as well have been like a Resident Evil 5 Chris Redfield BSAA moment.
Yeah. Although I do want to note that John Raimi is wearing this, like, ridiculous outfit. Because he's, like, a scientist. He's not, like, an actual soldier.
Yeah, he's wearing, like, an orange shirt, like, long sleeve shirt under this kind of colourful vest.
Yeah, it's, like, purple jumpsuit that he's wearing.
Yeah,
It looks ridiculous.
But that, fashion was different in those times.
Yeah.
In the Geist world.
You then go to the ghost hole.
You can't just drop that on me. My fucking ribs already hurt.
This is my secret plan to assassinate you.
Oh my god, it's working.
Yeah. So you're going to be extracted by going through this convenient hole that leads up to the moon. The full moon as it shines down through this hole.
It's almost as big as the Shadow the Hedgehog one.
Yeah, but then as you're about to leave, suddenly one of your men is possessed by a ghost. He is taken over by a Geist, and he shoots your other guys. And he shoots you as well. Like, you get shot the same as the others. It then cuts to this, like, ridiculous transition sequence where the most evil man who has ever lived, Alexander Vorks, who's in this massive Professor X wheelchair, and he's got a big scar on his face, and he's like, how are the preparations for my ghost plan going? And he's with this very typical Marine who's like, yes sir, don't worry, we're gonna do it, rainbows, here we go. And they're talking about how John Raimi is the most ghost compatible man who ever lived, and he's like, he's gonna be the Uber Geist.
Yeah, and they go, no, this time I think it's gonna be different with this guy.
Well, they kind of imply that they've been putting like hundreds of soldiers through the Ghost program, and they just become ooze. They just melt into little ectoplasm that they have to scrape off the walls.
Fucking hell, well, John Raimi, he makes it through, body intact and all.
Yeah, John Raimi is the one. He is the chosen one.
He
is the chosen Geist.
The chosen Geist. And as a result, you get to the first, like, proper ghost level, which involve kind of a tutorial on how to interact with.
Yeah, the tutorial is kind of this tantalizing look into a more imaginative game. Because you're in this, like... It's implied because it begins to break down and has wireframes that it's like a computer program.
Yeah.
And they've plugged your Geist computer soul into this computer program.
Yeah.
And you're in this kind of, like, overly saturated bubblegum wonderland where there's like trees and foliage.
You go to Balan's Wonderworld.
You go to Balan's Wonderworld, teaser for next time. And like there's this like soothing woman's voice. She's like, welcome to your new home. You have ascended to a higher plane. And the implication is that they're trying to like pyro TF2 brainwash you into thinking that you're just like shooting love pellets at like wonderful people when you're just killing them basically.
Yeah. And you possess plants and animals and things
Yeah,
like that.
so
while
you
there.
learn that you can only remain a Geist in the world for a set period of time before your soul drains away, basically.
Yeah, you have to be possessing living creatures in order to sustain yourself.
Yeah, and to kind of get around that, you can like drain energy from plants.
Mm.
Which means that every level has to have like plants all over them, which is really weird.
Yeah,
but, you know,
there's always a contrived reason why plants are just growing in like an
Yeah.
underground tunnel full of lava or something.
yeah. But then you possess your first creature, which is a little rabbit, and it's actually really endearing because you can see the rabbit's little nose as you shuffle along, and it's kind of
Yeah.
cute like that.
It is.
Like I remember when they were doing the tutorial, and you were told you could possess a rabbit, and you were like, "Oh my god, here we go!
Oh, I'm a little bunny rabbit,
I'm a little guy."
and you were surrounded by other ones, and it was so nice. And then the simulation breaks.
Yeah. And why does the simulation break, Connor?
Because these guys made Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem, and they had to kind of use some of their old tricks.
Yeah.
I legitimately don't remember why the sequence breaks. Is it Gigi?
It's because of Gigi. Who is a little Victorian orphan girl who has a bunny or like a teddy bear with a ghost teddy bear.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Hello, Raimi, it's me. I'm going to tell you how to be a ghost for reasons
Yeah.
that I guess we'll get into later." And that's when you begin the first ghost puzzle section. Now, I like to say this a lot. This is one of my favorite bits. But viewers, I have tricked you. Because this is not actually a ghost puzzle section. You think it's going to be a ghost puzzle section. Basically, you go into this room, and one of the mechanics of the game is that dogs can detect ghosts. Because dogs, like in culture, have a kind of connection to the supernatural. They bark at ghosts, all things like that. So ghosts will bark at anyone who is possessed because they can feel the spectral essence within.
Dogs will bark at what's possessed, not ghosts.
Dogs will bark at ghosts, yes. Ghosts will not bark at dogs. I would like that, though.
If I was a ghost, I'd do that personally.
Yeah, but that's not ghost specific. That's Connor specific.
Yeah, that's more because I'm a contrarian.
Yeah.
Ghost dogs, however, Way of the Samurai. Who knows?
All right now. Having a little too much fun over there.
I'm sorry. But yeah. But
yeah. So you're in this checkpoint. They have a dog at the door, and they're like, everyone who goes through this checkpoint has to be sniffed by the dog first. So you can't just possess a soldier and walk through the door. We then spend 10 minutes going around trying to find out any puzzle item that you can interact with. And it turns out what you have to do is possess a guy and shoot everyone.
You just kill everyone, and even when you're possessed as a ghost, you can walk through the barrier. Like there's no harm in it. And for the record as well, you also don't have to kill the dogs.
No, the dogs just bark at you. Connor did kill a dog because he's a heartless, twisted man, but...
Oh, well, listen.
Geist made him that way.
It had a gun.
Yeah, it had a gun. It was coming right for him.
It was coming right at me, and by that I mean it was standing perfectly still on the other side of a corridor.
Yeah, so that's kind of the first thing about Geist that I want to bring up in terms of its actual levels, is that it keeps... It kind of swings wildly between being a shooter and being a ghost puzzle game. And when it's being a shooter, it suffers because it's not as interesting.
No.
Because now we're just walking through these corridors, we're just shooting guys as they come by. They pose no real threat to us. You just shoot them once and they fly off across the map.
They do.
Yeah.
It's always interesting that whoever you are possessing at that point in time is the most mega strong guy ever.
Yeah, they have some kind of ghost armor.
Yeah, because they can take 500 bullets, whereas everyone else takes one. But yeah, that was that was very much a sign of things to come with the puzzles.
Yeah. It was disappointing because they set it up like it's going to be this big area where you have to like figure out a way to get past this dog barrier, and it's just you shoot everyone. Yeah, and that's all there is to it.
We also found our first ghost collectible, which is used to increase your health bar while you're a ghost.
Yeah, so you have two collectibles: Ghost Collectible and Host Collectible. Ghost Collectibles, as Connor says, increase your spiritual energy, which I guess means you can meander around as a ghost more frequently. You can like take longer to solve puzzles. Although I will say the bar does decrease quite slowly anyway. Yeah. Like it's not very fast. The next is Host Collectibles, which you find while possessing people. And Connor, what do Host Collectibles unlock for you?
They unlock more content for the multiplayer.
That's right. Geist has a multiplayer. It's a game released in 2005, so it has to have a multiplayer segment.
God, I think that'd be a great way to kind of cap up the game as we talk about the multiplayer. But I guess if we stay on track with the campaign, it's probably worth then sort of because we got up to the first boss on this.
So we played up to the first boss, who's called Cord.
Yeah,
very threatening name.
Yeah, he has a riot shield, a laser gun, and he throws grenades at you.
Yes.
And So naturally, the riot shield, if he's actually blocking with it, you can't shoot him with the shield. There's a lot of times where he's moving around where you still can do chip damage, but the main way that you actually have to damage him is that whenever he throws a grenade, you have to leave your host's body, possess the grenade, and roll it towards him, which I think is a really cool idea.
Yeah, it is a really interesting premise. I do just want to say about Cord that I do weep for him. He is the most ineffectual man. All he does is shoot these really slow, like, laser blasts that take... Like, the bullet or the laser takes time to travel towards you. And then also he throws grenades.
Yeah.
So, like, all of his attacks are, like, delayed. And he just can't ever hit you because of that.
No, it's very easy to avoid his attacks.
Yeah.
It's worth mentioning as well that while you are in ghost mode, while you don't have a host, time slows down.
Yeah, because I think the idea is that they want to make it easier for you to possess things mid-motion.
Yeah.
Like, they don't want you chasing items around, trying to grab them. So things do go to a crawl.
Yeah, so even if Cord is attacking your helpless host while you're fucking him over with grenades, it's not that big of a deal, because as soon as you blow up the grenade and do damage to him, you're in slow motion. You can go back to your mook, and you can just get them to jump out the way of any laser.
Yeah.
But
although if you are misfortunate enough for one of his attacks to hit your guy, killing him in one hit, that is game over.
Yeah, and you got to do it all over again.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, it's a bit of a pain in the ass when that happens. But that's the same with all games, I suppose.
Yeah. And I think it's one of the bosses where it's not that well executed upon because it's kind of slow. But the idea of like possessing a guy as he throws grenade, or possessing his grenades and leading them back to him, is a really interesting idea. I do feel positively about that boss fight.
Yeah, there's those few moments where the kind of ghost mechanics really do shine. And I think that's one that I think to say it shines is a bit of like too high of a praise, but it's a cool way of doing it.
It's Marge Simpson. I just think they're neat.
Oh fuck, I can't do much.
I didn't even try.
Worst impressions. Yeah. Didn't even get to like an entire word.
Do John Raimi. Oh my god, it's like he's really here. It's like I'm really looking at a ghost.
Well, that was a trend that I kept doing with you. Which do you want me to talk? Like, this is something I can cut. Do you want me to talk about this, Ash?
You go ahead, yeah.
All right. So ever since we played Geist, I don't know what possessed me to do this, pun intended. But I just would, every time I would write Ash a Christmas card or a birthday card or anything similar like that, I would always write it as John Raimi possessing random characters that she actually likes.
Yeah, and he would always draw John Raimi's face.
Yeah, I would try to draw John Raimi's face over the character.
Yeah.
And it was I pushed this joke for about 3 years. I think it ultimately ended with Dale Cooper fucking solving the mystery.
Yeah. Dale Cooper resolved John Raimi's mystery.
He went to the Red Room and tracked down John Raimi and
it was quite the story arc.
Exorcised him.
Yeah.
So Ash is now free from the scorn of Geist as a result of John Raimi.
But no, you've dragged me back in. Now I'm back here talking about Geist.
Oh, sweet. I mean, your birthday's in a few months, so...
There we go. It's all coming together. Yeah. Just send me a transcript of this podcast.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
So this is where it's going to get spicy, my friends. Buckle yourselves in, because we're going on a crazy ride here. This is past the point where we actually replayed of Geist. So now it's going to get a little bit like... You remember when... Yeah, that happened?
Yeah, so this is just assorted highlights from the game now. That's kept with us for one reason or another.
So... what we've got written here is vague puzzle sections. So what happens next in the game is that you kind of just go from ghost puzzle to ghost puzzle. This is where the game, once again, quote-unquote, shines, but it's never good enough. It's never interesting enough. Every puzzle is just, you're in a room, there's an item you've got to possess that can scare a guy, and then you can use that guy to move forward.
Yeah.
Like, I remember specifically one area in which you're trying to possess a specific scientist to get access to his computer. So it's just like, okay, what cup can I possess to make him mildly scared? And that will make him move towards this computer, and then you can use that computer to scare him, and then you can possess him. And that's really all it ever does with this mechanic in this section of the game.
Yeah.
It's just, okay, what is the good item to progress, and what order do I have to do it in? That's kind of all there is to it.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot to say on these. We've kind of given the puzzle sections the praise that they kind of deserve, because conceptually they're good. It's just mainly in practice. It's that and the gunplay that they really do not shine. If anything, I more remember the more action-oriented parts of the game, because either they were kind of brash or kind of like not. I don't want to say profound or bold because that implies they do something cool. It's
Well,
more
they're explosive, right?
explosive. That's the way to put it. At other times, like I remember sections that I remember being incredibly tedious. That just.
I think that's more of the memory we have of the ghost sections, right? Like the feeling that I can remember in my heart is just in my room, you sitting next to me, and it's like, what the fuck are we doing? What cup do we need to possess? Like, what? Like, this area is so big, and there's so many things to look at.
Yeah.
What's going to be the magic item that's going to be progress here? And that was just the way I felt about all the ghost puzzles. Was just, it's kind of like that classic like adventure game logic, right? Where it's like, what comb do I have to combine with this shoebox to make a kind of contraption? You know?
Yeah. I suppose there was a kind of like ghost-oriented boss fight of sorts where you had to possess this engineer and then possess turrets.
Yeah, so you're in this kind of, like, it's like a freezer room. It's like this kind of like cold room, so there's kind of like mist everywhere, and it's a bit atmospheric actually. You're fighting Cord again. Cord is back.
Yeah.
But you now have to, because he's there with 4 of his men, and there's 2 gun turrets, and he will destroy his men when you possess them, and destroy the gun turrets when you possess them. So you have to whittle his health down by shooting him with these elements before he destroys all of them, because otherwise you'll just lose at that point. You've also got to keep the engineer safe because you need him for another puzzle section.
Alright, this is another one of those moments where now that you mention this, I can now just vividly picture what that room was. I completely blanked it from my mind, like it meant nothing to me until we've just started talking about it, and I'm just like, oh my fucking god, we were there for a while.
Yeah, I'm sure you can remember how frustrating it was, because it's just like, it just feels like, it's one of those boss fights where it feels like you're doing it perfectly right, and then all of a sudden the boss will just turn around and destroy all of your turrets in one shot. And it's like, well, what was I supposed to do? Am I just meant to get lucky? Am I meant to just wait until it doesn't happen like that?
Yeah, it seems like you just have to get the drop on them and have a perfect run.
Yeah,
Which that kind of trial and error in game design is, it's never truly gone away, but it was more prevalent at this point in time, I think.
Yeah, especially in weaker games that are less well conceived.
Yeah.
That just seems to be how they design things. They don't accurately consider how annoying that's going to be.
Yeah. But one boss that I do more distinctly remember, every like Zelda game or Metroid game seems to have a boss.
I was gonna say
this.
it's like a Metroid Prime boss.
Yeah, where it's this big rolling ball bug.
Yeah. You're in like this big empty room, and there's like pillars along each wall. So it's kind of like a maze, I suppose, where he's rolling along these pillars, and you're trying to skirt around him and shooting him in his big glowy weak point on his back, basically. And I kid you not, I don't want to understate this. This boss fight is god awful. It's so long. All this boss does is just roll around from point to point, and you just shoot him in the back, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
And he has so much health. I remember we were doing this for like an hour.
Yeah, well, I don't quite remember the pillar room version of it. I remember the version of it where you're just in a big round room. There's barely any cover. It's sort of a bluish color. Because this boss comes back.
Yeah, there are repeats of this boss.
Yeah, this boss, you fight him twice, and I just remember this just completely drab room where you're just whittling him down with like a machine gun.
Yeah, because there's like no ghost element to this boss fight. You were just playing as one character, and if that character dies, you're gone.
Yeah. I guess I'll throw a little bone in the game's favor and say that one thing, now that I'm thinking about it, is kind of cool. Is I noticed while playing this that you have infinite ammunition when you play a character. So the resource sort of management in this game isn't so much ammunition for your weapons, so much as it is assets that you can possess. Anything that's explosive or highly corrosive in the area, or like just bodies that are carrying guns. You can't, as another person, pick up the gun of another host. You have to rely solely on the hosts while they're alive. But, and I guess on the subject of hosts, the most prevalent host, to my massive surprise, was there's a bit where John Raimi has to go through a little ghost crack in the wall.
Yeah. Oh, we never talked about that.
Yeah.
So this is actually something that I wish we had talked about. I'm going to get into it now. Is that you might think to yourself, oh, this is a game where you're playing as a ghost. That sounds really fun, because surely you can like float through walls, you can fly. No, you silly fools. That would be too much fun. When you're playing as a ghost, you can float, but only for a few seconds, and you can't go through most walls.
No.
You can only go through little tiny ghost cracks.
Yeah. Just little ghost cracks in the walls.
Yeah.
That are kind of designated for you. So John goes through one of these little ghost cracks, and he ends up going into a woman's shower room.
Yeah, which to me, it feels like these developers were like, ooh, what kind of like tropey things can you have in a possession game? And it's like, oh, every man would go into the women's showers, am I right?
Yeah. And there's also a thing of it's an M-rated Nintendo game.
We gotta have the butts in it.
Yeah. So
this ain't your grandpa's Mario.
yeah. So then you possess a naked woman for a bit. I think
and here's the thing that's surprising about it, is that you possess this naked lady, like she's in the shower and you do like classic ghost japes, like you make the shower head spurt out water and you make her locker like burst out towards her.
Yeah.
And you're eventually able to possess her. You then play as her for like 4 hours.
Yeah, she's the longest host that
Yeah.
you have in the game.
And you convert her into a mercenary. Like you get her suited up, she has a sick gun.
Yeah.
Like she's implied to be like a secretary.
Yeah.
And then you just turn her into into a badass warrior lady.
Which is really funny given that John Raimi isn't a mega soldier. He's
No,
just
he's
a
a
guy.
scientist. Yeah,
So
yeah.
So because the first half of it, when you're playing as her, you have like a fire extinguisher and there's bugs everywhere. It's less of a combative
yeah.
area. They make it more of a survival-y kind of thing.
And
But
I actually was enjoying the game at that part, because it felt more like this is what the game should be. Like, you're possessing different people with different levels of ability, and the game changes to accommodate those people.
yeah, if the game was more oriented around your host having these very particular skills
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you could rely on.
Like, maybe if there were, like, 5 named characters that you, like, had different sections where you played as them, and they had different abilities. Like, there's one who could, like, I don't know, has a key card, or one that has a fire extinguisher, stuff like that.
Yeah, or just like one that's smarter and
Yeah,
one that's,
yeah, exactly.
stronger and everything. Whereas, eventually this character kind of, just gets implicated into the whole thing, because by the end of the game, she's one of the main characters.
Yeah.
She's on, like, the final rescue chopper.
Even though, like, during the entire section, she is possessed, and surely she can't remember any of it.
No, right?
So she's just standing on the helicopter wielding an AK-47, just like, what the fuck are they?
Yeah, it's completely unclear what happens with people when you leave the possession, because they kind of just stand there when you're
Yeah,
done.
because like in the Cork boss fight, obviously you possess that guy, but then you leave his body, but he's not standing there just like, why am I fighting Cork? He's just like, well, I'm waiting for the ghost to come back.
Yeah,
So.
well, I'm so scared. I'm just waiting
Yeah.
for my ghost mode to return.
And like they don't even have like what I would have done is make them have like a dazed animation, so they're like, so they're like a little out of it because of the possession, but they're just standing there normally, like, well, back to my rounds.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would have made a lot more sense.
Yeah.
I don't quite remember what the fuck happens with like immediately afterwards, but one level does come to mind, which I'm wondering if you've blocked this out.
Oh yeah.
There's some kind of level where you have to play as like a miner or something. You get into a big suit.
Oh
And-
yeah, I remember
and-
because we
yeah.
couldn't find the button to get into the suit for the longest time.
Yeah, and you then have this kind of like piston gun, and you have to, and you optionally you can use the piston gun to do a bunch of menial work and fix a bunch of girders.
Oh yeah, because we spent ages doing that, didn't we?
did.
Because we thought it was the reason we were in the big suit.
Yeah, and we spent a long time in this level to go and do this, and it turns out that's not what you were meant to do.
I think the idea is because in the midsection of the game, the mercenary commander Rourke accidentally breaks the ghost machine and opens up a big ghost hole.
Oh,
And that's where all like the more supernatural monsters are crawling out of this like demon abyss, basically.
Oh yeah.
So I think you're like, all right, time to seal up the ghost hole with my big girder. Boom, boom, boom. You know, it's something really silly about it. Like it's like you got to hire a contractor. He comes on down, gives you a quote. He's like, oh, it's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah. Have we got someone who specializes in ghost holes, patching up ghost holes?
Yes, we have John Raimi.
He can do it. He's the man with a plan and every
Yeah.
kind of skill.
He's the
possible.
one. He can do it.
I also very distinctly remember one of my favorite ghost puzzles, even though it wasn't particularly deep,
Ghost puzzles.
which is the long chain of possessions you have to do in order to poison about 12 security guards.
Yeah, so
that
you're in this big like cafeteria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in order to get into the cafeteria, you have to possess a bunch of objects to scare some rats. You possess the rats and use them to lure a cat or to scare a cat.
Yeah.
You then possess the cat. You use the cat to go into the cafeteria.
Yeah.
You then have a chef that you have to do this big, long, convoluted set of things to scare the chef.
Yeah, because you have to like open his oven and like make his like soup boil over and things like that.
Yeah, and everything. And he's rushing around and you spook him to eventually possess the chef, to pick up some rat poison, to poison a massive like tub of broth that then all of the security guards go and eat, and they all pass out / die when you do it, which allows you to leave scot-free, because apparently there's too many of them for you to kill, despite the fact that we mow down that many security guards constantly.
Well, it's like the constant drama of the road stops that are in the game is always very funny to me, because it's always like, all right, Rainbows, we've invented, like, John Raimi's on his way, we've invented a new anti-ghost mechanic.
Yeah.
Like, there's a ghost gate or a ghost detector and things like that. And it's always about circumventing it in the most convoluted way.
It's just complete adventure game logic at some point.
I think the time when you're trying to get past the rat poison guys is that you have, like, a guy on the inside who's like, all right, we can get out of here using this key card, but first we've got to deal with all these soldiers because they know that I'm a rat, basically. We also didn't talk about the actual chef himself. Who is like this like really stereotypical New York, like, hey, I'm making pasta over here.
Yeah. I was very enamored by his face. I took a few pictures.
You have a few pictures of his wonderful face.
I might put them here, I might not. It depends. It might be a jump scare.
Yeah, just suddenly, wah!
Now I can possess you.
And that section was like, it was kind of fun, but it's all kind of tempered by how tedious and how unclear it all is, where it's like, all right, where is the rat? I have to move a cat here and do all this ridiculous thing. And, like, we used the guide in a few places because it was just getting so convoluted at a certain point. You know?
Yeah, because there's just a lot of these, like, weird assorted levels. I mean, I didn't even remember until we were talking about it just before the podcast that you fight the same bosses multiple times.
Yeah, so you fight Cord twice.
Yeah.
So you fight Cord when he's throwing grenades at you, and you fight him with the turret guns in the freezer room.
Yeah.
You fight the tentacle creature 3 times from the start of the game. And each time it's the exact... Like, I was reading a boss guide to remind me of the bosses in the game, and literally the second creature fight, it just says, it's the exact same, but this time you have a shotgun. And it's like, wow.
Oh, cool. So it's probably easier then.
Yeah. And then the third time, I think it has like a whole bunch of really annoying new moves where it like target locks onto you, and it's like you're in this big square room, and it's really annoying.
God. And there's and the Roller Boy as well.
Yeah, Roller Boy comes back to drop his sick new beats.
You fight him twice.
Yeah.
He's dropping his beats. I would listen to his mixtape.
There's a point in the middle of the game in which you're just fighting the same boss fights over and over, and you're just like, these ones weren't even good the first time. Like, bring back Cord.
I'll take it back, actually. I would not listen to his mixtape, because it would be Geist music.
It would be Geist music, and you would fall asleep.
I would.
Geist music to fall asleep to.
Well, speaking of falling asleep, we're not quite at the end of everything that we're saying here, but I do want to say that Geist was a game that we had to play in kind of 2 chunks.
Yeah. I think Geist was the first game that we had to separate into sessions, right?
Yeah, because we kept playing it quite late into the evening, and we were just like half awake at some points of it.
Yeah. And also it was a very draining game.
Yeah.
Because we would just spend like an hour doing the roly-poly boss fight, and then you would get an hour in, and then you would see the roly-poly fight again, and you'd be like, no, how could it be doing it again? Why are we still here?
Yeah, because some games, if we play them quite late, they kind of give us a new lease of energy, and we can kind of keep going. But Geist was not that.
No. We were also playing it at my parents' house.
Oh, and they're quite strict.
Yeah, my mum was like, please, I have to wake up at 7 for my job. Stop playing Geist. And we were like, no, we will never stop playing Geist.
Can I talk about your cat?
You may talk about my beloved cat, yeah.
So, Ash's cats are very affectionate, and they're very sweet. They often come into the room while we're playing games. Marley in particular is, best buds with you.
Yeah, lovely little guy.
He's always after your affection.
Clingy, I would say.
Yeah, very.
Hasn't got a job yet.
No,
Furious about it.
He doesn't. He's a deadbeat.
Yeah, he's a bum.
But Geist, we had to focus so much on Geist that Marley became envious of Geist.
Yes, he was very petulant about the whole thing.
So much so that I have this picture. I have a couple pictures actually, where Marley has deliberately sat down on the bed next to the TV, and with his back turned to us and the television.
Oh yeah, you've definitely got to put this in the podcast when this section comes up.
Yeah, no.
There's an energy to it.
Yeah, I'm putting it on screen now, please. This cat's envy is really funny to me, because he was so fucking mad. You could see it all over his face of just like, oh,
yeah, because you would call his name and he would look at you like, oh, you want me now, do you? Well, sorry, babe, but these doors are closed.
He made his fucking mind up.
Do you know what this also means?
What?
Geist is going to be the first game in which we actually have footage of the game on screen during us talking about it, because you can see a bit of Geist in this picture.
You can.
So you will learn what Geist looks like, which you didn't for any of the other games.
No, it was completely off the cuff. You just had to take our word for it.
Yeah.
Signalis might as well have been a Flash game.
Basically, yeah.
Shadow the Hedgehog, pixel art. Fucking, I don't know. Made on the Game Boy Advance.
Which was pixel art, man.
Probably would have. Would have looked like Sonic Advance.
Yeah, Sonic looks great in pixel art. Not great in 3D. Anyway, so what's next? So I want to also draw attention to the fact that so when we do these podcasts, we always want to make sure we have a structure to it. I think that's kind of the strength of this one over other podcasts, like Return to Sender, which are a bit more off the cuff.
Yeah.
Where we like to go through and say, all right, we're going to talk about this and this and this. So we've got like introduction, gameplay, and then just like a long list of sections where we've just written like poison, puzzles, Anna level, who Anna being the woman that you possess. So next on our list is the bosses of the game, which we have talked about to some degree. I do just want to take a moment to say that every boss in this game, apart from maybe Cord, is terrible. They all take so long. Each boss only has like 1 or 2 moves. Like, the tentacle just shoots green things at you, and that's all he does. Cord just shoots his little green laser and throws grenades. He has nothing else. The Roly Boy, guess what? He roll, E-boy. That's all he's got. And they all take so long.
Yeah.
They all have such massive health pools, and if you die, you just get booted right back to the start of them and to begin it all over again.
Yeah. It's a huge sort of like time waster in many ways, and it's a damn shame. But...
Yeah, and then so the final thing we've got written on here is Rourke.
Rourke. Oh, Commander Rourke.
Which I don't think either of us actually remembers the fight.
We don't. Is he in the helicopter?
He's not in the helicopter.
Okay, because there's a few, like, the end of the game is a slew of different boss fights that are just based.
Oh yeah, the ending of the game is going to be a special part to talk about.
Yeah.
My god, the game just begins to crumble under the weight.
So Rourke wasn't the big orange section. That was the boss. That was
that's just you're just fighting turrets there. You're not fighting any named character. In that part.
Okay.
So should we talk about the big orange section?
Yeah, because it's that's a more distinct memory. Is this giant open sprawling level where you have to destroy these multiple turrets in order to get a helicopter down.
Yeah, so you're trying to evacuate your man on the inside, Agent Bryson, who's your best friend.
Yeah. He's scheduled to become a ghost at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it's like he's got his ghost meeting at 9, and you need to really get there before that happens. So
and you have to free him and get him out. And I think you free him as Anna.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, because it's like you do this with. Oh, I just remembered. It just came back to me. They have this ridiculous call sign where they do this like weird hand wave, and that's how you know it's them. So like, Raimi will always approach Bryson as a rat and be like, do his little hand thing, and it's like. It's like, oh, Raimi, it's you, thank God.
You could have been any of these rats, John, but it's good to see you.
It's really silly. So you're in this big open outside area, which is, I think, it's the only outside area in the game until the ending.
Are we gonna have John Raimi as a rat in the art? I want to see a rat do that little call sign.
Okay, you can have a rat in the art.
Yes.
I will acquiesce to rat.
Excellent.
Yeah, but anyway, this big orange area. Come on, I'm trying to talk about orange.
Sorry, orange.
You love orange. It spins. And the objective is that this helicopter is taking off, and there are like 6 different turret systems around you, and you have to blow them all up before they destroy the helicopter, basically. And oh my god, it's so annoying because like there are enemies everywhere. There are turrets shooting you down no matter where you go, and if you're like even a moment too slow, you'll run out of time and just have to do the whole thing over again.
Yeah. I guess while we're talking about quite a large combat section of the game as well, I'm going to briefly talk about the weapons in that there is barely anything to say. They're a very bog standard affair.
Yeah, it's like you have a pistol, a machine gun, a shotgun.
Yeah, like there's really not much, especially given that the enemies are so disposable, like they die so quickly. The weapons only really make a difference in the multiplayer. I think you use like landmines really to kind of blow up the turrets. That's the main thing.
I think so, yeah. I think you have to make sure you have a well-supplied stock of landmines for those sections, yeah. Although I think you can become a ghost and possess like bombs near them and things like that as well. I think that's an option.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a neat twist, but it's still not enough to make that section fun. Like for me, that was the Geist low point. That was when we were at our lowest Geist point. Was that dumb turret section?
I mean, speaking of possessing those bombs, an earlier point in the game, they have a bunch of these bombs near enemies, and they glow to show you that you can possess them to do it.
Yeah.
But if you've got a healthy host and you have infinite ammunition, you could just shoot them.
Yeah, it kind of feels like those two elements of the game don't really come together in the way they were hoping for, where it's like, oh, you can be a ghost or a human, and it's like, well, yeah, but you just be a human and you shoot them, because you have infinite ammo, so there's no need to ever leave your host, basically.
No.
It's just not very well considered.
No. Not at all. But this area, I remember it being quite long. It took a couple tries.
Yeah.
And then
I think this is one where we were passing the controller back and forth quite a lot.
We were, yeah.
This was the first game in which we did so, because it was just like, all right, you play fucking Geist for a bit.
Yeah, you fucking do it.
I'm sick of Geist. Get Geist out of here.
And I think it's right after this section, because despite going through all this effort to destroy the turrets, to do the evacuation, something comes up. And John Raimi, I think Volk is trying to activate their big ghost demon hole thing.
Yeah. So a super ghost comes out of the ghost hole, and it possesses John Raimi's body.
Oh.
So John Raimi's body becomes a villain.
Oh shit! And you have to be. Oh my god!
So you're trying to chase, because like Bryson is going to get out, but Raimi decides to stay behind so he can get his body back because he's a ghost.
Yeah.
But then your body is possessed by this other ghost, and that becomes kind of the drama for the second half of the game, is chasing that entity down.
Yeah. And after that, you have this just slew of boss fights. You've got this helicopter battle, which just takes forever to do. Like, trying to shoot it out the sky, getting the weapons you need to actually like do it. I think. Okay, I might be misremembering this for Lost Planet or something, but I swear you have to possess like rocket launchers, turrets or something.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
And then after you spend a fucking hour wailing on this thing, then it crashes, and it has a bunch of cargo in the back, which is evil ghosts, orange ghosts.
Yeah, so the helicopter crashes and Satan's army is unleashed as 10,000 ghosts fly off into the area. They are all trying to possess you. In order to get unpossessed, you have to mash like buttons to get out. So the last areas of the game, you're just getting constantly possessed by these ghosts who try to move you in different directions. You have to mash A to break free from them.
Yeah, I think they're trying to move you into hazards.
They are. Although we have forgotten about one section, which I'm shocked by.
Really?
I feel this is the most important and pertinent section in the entire game, which is the dog section. No, Connor, come back! I can't do this by myself!
I can't go through this again.
Connor hasn't got what it takes. He's not man enough to talk about dogs.
Alright.
Welcome to the solo podcast. I'm talking about Titanic now.
Alright, picture the scene.
Alright, lay it on me. His mind can't even form around it. It's too painful for him.
Okay, listen, so we've already established you are John Raimi. You possess anything, right?
Yeah.
You can possess different animals and people, and la-di-da-di-da, it's used for a bunch of puzzles. I think it is before this big open section.
Yeah.
You have this bit where you have to possess a guard who has one of the dogs.
Yes.
And
so for some reason, for my memory escapes E4, you need to get this dog from A to B.
Yeah.
For reasons.
And the dog isn't barking at you despite the fact you're possessing the person who is holding the dog.
Yeah.
So you, in order to get this dog to a different part of the area, you have to throw dog biscuits to lead the dog. You can't just walk off with the dog. You can't like pull the dog along.
No, the dog is like resisting you.
Yeah, the dog has to go. You basically have to go in the direction of the dog by throwing biscuits in order to do it. And it's so slow. You don't throw them far at all. You throw them like about 2 feet in front of you.
Yeah.
And the dog like steadily trots over and takes ages to eat the fucking thing. And you go down such a long fucking corridor.
You're going down like it's like you're going down a corridor up some stairs through a wing of the building to another room.
Yeah. And they have dead ends.
Yeah, and they have dead ends.
So you can go into the completely wrong area as well and have to double back with this stupid fucking thing.
And like you're like throwing the biscuits and it will move forward, and then if you're not quick enough with the next biscuit, it will pull back and you'll lose distance that you've gained.
Fucking will.
So we were doing this for like an hour, and I think at this point our minds just broke.
Yeah.
Like we had completely given up on Geist being any fun, and it was just like, oh, for fuck's sake, just moving this dog for forever and ever.
Yeah, I think that was the one where I kind of said a few things take an hour. I think that one literally took us an hour.
It did, yeah.
I think every other fight they felt like an hour, but they were more like like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, probably.
But this was agonizing. There was no action. There was nothing. It was just we were just
dragging a dog along, just like throwing an infinite number of biscuits at it, and just like there was nothing more to it than that.
No,
absolutely infuriating.
Oh my god. Well, and yet I don't know what's worse, that long agonizing process or just the sheer amount of like QTE button mashing you have to do when you fight 100 fucking ghosts.
Yeah, and I think it was this point where we had reached a kind of delirium that did make it amusing, because I just recall us sitting there and being like, oh, there's fucking 10,000 ghosts flying all around. Because now there's just like loads of orange evil ghosts just like woo and all around. And it's so ridiculous. It's so stupid. It's like, I guess you had to escalate the Geist action by making there be 100 Geists.
Yeah, they really do. I mean, I guess on the one hand, it's interesting that you have to face enemy ghosts. Like,
yeah,
that's kind of cool. But
and like the idea that they like counter possess you was like an interesting premise as well, even if it is just mashing to get out of their grip.
Yeah, it's just not well done at all.
Yeah.
Anyway, after this, for some fucking reason, you fight 2 Roman golems.
Yeah, so you end up in the ancient ghost ruins. Like, you're in like Serious Sam levels, and you're running around this like ancient Egyptian temple. And you do have to fight 2 massive golems. I think it's because they're being possessed by other ghosts.
Right.
Yeah, so they're like, you're in this big like circular coliseum shooting down these big golems, and it's I kind of applaud how out there it starts to get. Like, it becomes more imaginative. Like, that's more interesting than fighting Cord 5 more times.
Yeah.
Or a tentacle. But it's just like, what's going on in this game at this point?
It has nothing to do with nothing.
Yeah. We're in like an ancient ruin. We're fighting golems. There are thousands of ghosts flying all around. It gets pretty weird.
It does. And I'm not sure if there was anything of substance between these 2 points, but the only other point of the game I remember after this is the final boss themselves.
Yes. Which is, again, so should we haven't really talked about the story that much, actually.
No, we want to give some context to this guy.
Yeah. So the guy that you're fighting, the kind of main villain of the whole saga, is a man named Alexander Rourke, who has dedicated his life to a biological weapons development company. That's its primary purpose, but its secondary purpose is to take over the entire world. And the way they're going to do that is by using their ghosts to possess every world leader.
Which is smart.
Yeah, it's a good R plan, we write that in a little memo.
It works for the Las Plagas,
Yeah, Resident Evil 4, it's about making everyone bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Geist is about making everyone ghosts.
Yeah, and Shadow the Hedgehog is about killing everyone.
Yeah.
And the president.
So Alexander Rourke is cartoonishly evil. He's in this massive doom chair, and he's got this big old scar, and his voice is like, yes, initiate Order 25B, and it's like, he's very, very silly. What you learn, though, over the course of the game is that he has actually been possessed by a demon. And the way he was possessed by a demon is that when he was a young boy, a young chipper orphan, even though he wasn't an orphan, he was sitting in a big tree that's in the middle of his house. Like, it's not outside, it's like this like foyer with a big tree growing in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And he's sitting really high up, and he's reading this book because he's a huge nerd. And his sister, who is Gigi, the ghost who teaches you your tutorial at the start of the game, she's like, big bro, I want to play, read a book to me. And he's like, no, I have to learn the sciences. And she's like, fine, I'm going to climb this tree. And she starts to climb the tree, and she falls out of the big tree and dies.
Yeah, she fucking like breaks her neck or something.
Yeah, it's actually kind of like a little shocking to watch. It's like like a little girl dying on screen, and it's like, oh god.
Yeah, that took me by surprise when I replayed it. I remember that quite.
Because I think it was like 10:30 at night, and we were just like, oh my.
Oh my fucking god, this got real.
Yeah. He then uses his lifelong interest in the occult to try and resurrect her, and this fails. What it does is it ends up turning Gigi into a ghost, the first Geist, if you will, and it lets a demon come into our realm who possesses Alexander and makes him a puppet, basically.
Yeah.
So he's not actually a bad guy, he's just being controlled by this demon, essentially. Sorry, I had to scratch my face there. So I actually kind of like that as a plot, because it's a little bit of a twist. It's like, it's a bit tragic. A girl dies. It was just a boy trying to resurrect his dead sister, and it all goes awry.
There's a sympathetic element to it.
Yeah. And I think that really, it doesn't make it a good story, but it makes it a story that I found at least fun to watch and to learn that little tidbit.
Yeah.
Because like, they have a lot of little cool elements where, like, when Gigi is speaking to you, she sometimes speaks to you through mirrors. And when you look into the mirror, you realize she's actually in like her old room rather than what it's actually meant to be reflecting.
Yeah, there are some really, really cool visual stuff that happen in this game, but they're very sporadic. Like,
it's never enough.
If the game was more trippy like that, and if it didn't want to wear the veneer of being a kind of generic science fiction, like military game, with facilities and factories and tunnels,
scientists and labs and stuff,
I think it would have been really cool. Like Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem.
Which is really just watching this game with disappointed eyes, like you're letting the slide down.
Yeah.
But then you have to fight Alexander. The first bit where you fight him, so there's 2 stages to the Alexander boss fight. The first is that he's in his wheelchair, but he's like, the wheelchair is like been possessed by ghosts and it's like flying all around.
Yeah.
He's like, ooh, Sam Raimi, look at me go.
And he's shooting like energy beams at you.
You're in like this like ancient library, I think, like going around all these bookcases and things. And he's like shooting dumb balls of energy at you.
It's a really funny kind of end to what was otherwise this very, as we say, like this science fiction military aesthetic has just gone into this fantastical occult sort of. He's in that chair. He almost seems like a supervillain in like a flying rocket chair.
Well, I think his body has been like twisted by the demonic energy that's within him. He's got this horrible scowl and his face is all red and he's like, nah.
Am I misremembering this, or is the reason why he has a scar because that's the wound that Gigi had when she fell, and he basically had like a take me instead moment,
right? And
he ended up being possessed, and so I think he's like technically dead during the possession.
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember very well.
No, me neither. If anyone knows,
write in, leave a comment below. Leave a comment on the Shadow episode.
Well, comment on the Shadow episode. With it. Because then again, that's the thing, is that we have very hazy memories of this game, and I feel like someone who really, really likes this game is probably going to comment to say, like, well, you've kind of twisted this a bit, and you've missed out on some really special things, because you don't remember the whole thing, and like, I understand that, like, it's a bit of a shame, but
listen, sweetie, this is our list. This is the experience that we had playing Geist, and I think what makes it fine is that we did replay some of the game and had our suspicions and thoughts confirmed by those sections.
Yeah, going through another sort of like 8-10 hour game just to get the refresher was maybe a bit much.
Yeah.
Like I'm glad we played that little bit of it that we did. But before we go too off topic, the final boss.
Yes. Have you kids ever played Res?
The hit video game Res.
So you go into Alexander's soul as a Geist. You've retrieved your original body at this point, but you once again return to your Geist form to enter his very being and to excise the demon from within. And it becomes this really, it becomes a different game, basically. Like, you're controlling Sam Raimi as he grinds along this rail, and you can, switch from rail to rail, and you have to, use that to dodge attacks. And it's kind of, rhythmic, in a way. It's like a rhythm game.
Yeah.
The game does not explain how this works at all. It doesn't give you a control scheme. It doesn't tell you what you're doing. You just have to figure it out for a final boss. However, Connor, my poor old mum has got to get up very early in the morning.
So, this is technically... Although we don't count it as this, really, this is technically the first game that we didn't actually finish.
No.
This is one of those ones that didn't make it.
No.
Right at the last hurdle, so instead we watched the ending on YouTube.
Yeah, it was 11:30. My mum had asked us to be quiet, so we couldn't even react to things and have a banter between us.
Yeah.
We were just sitting there in silence, trying to beat Geist, and I think I was like, Connor, I don't want to have to come back to play half an hour of Geist.
Yeah, the best part of you moving out was that we can now play games like Geist at any time.
Exactly, late into the
night. We can
night.
go on as late as we want.
Go on our late night Geist benders, What a life we lead. Rich and full of experience.
Listen, we're living a life that no one else will, which is a life where we get to play Shadow the Hedgehog and Geist, and...
Who else could have done this? Who else could have made the list go on?
Bada bing!
Yeah.
Bada boom!
Only
I love it.
me and you have what it takes to play some of Geist.
Most of Geist.
The vast majority of Geist.
98% of Geist.
98% of Geist. And we did watch the ending cutscene of Geist, which is really confusing. Because, the helicopter shows up to rescue Sam Raimi from the Geist world.
You keep calling him Sam Raimi.
Yeah, Sam Raimi, director of Spider-Man, who is the main character of Geist. Yeah, so he's there. He's hanging out. He's rocking up. Yep. And On the helicopter are the beloved members of the Geist team. So it's Agent Bryson, who somehow survived his helicopter blowing up.
Yeah.
It's Anna, the girl you possess for half the game, who must be very confused. And the dog.
That fucker!
And like, yeah, he deserved to die. He deserved to perish in the flames. But like, it's this really weird moment. I feel like a lot of things in media do this, where they want to have their big final moment, but they haven't earned it. Where it shows you the cast of Geist, and you're like, oh, all right, yeah, the Geist guys are here.
Imagine your end of Super Mario Sunshine picture that you
Yeah,
get,
yeah, but it's fucking it's Raymond Bryson.
Yeah. I imagine the scene at the end of Persona 4 where he's looking at the photo and it's just the great. It's John Geist.
John Geist is a rat. It's a cup, a bucket of paint, maybe.
Oh my god, Sen will not draw that, but if he could,
we pay him to draw what we want him to draw.
That's true. We could just pay him.
Exactly. Come on.
Oh my fucking god! But yeah, and that was the campaign, the single player of Geist.
But I note with apprehension, with fear in my eyes, with my soul quivering, that you say the single player campaign of Geist. Because, Connor, Geist is a first-person shooter, released in 2005, following the release of Halo 1. So what does Geist, by obligation, need to have?
It's gotta have online multiplayer. You know what? Well, no. Actually, that's not true. It has multiplayer.
It has offline multiplayer.
Yeah, because this is also a year after Halo 2, which does have online multiplayer.
Yeah, and while Nintendo may have made a GameCube Ethernet connector solely so you can play Phantasy Star Online...
Yeah, there's no other game.
No other game... Well, there's like 2 other games, but who cares? Geist is not one of those games. You cannot play online Geist, much to my disgust. But you can play local Geist. And let's talk about the Geist multiplayer, shall we?
Okay, so how do we take these unique aspects of Geist and turn them into a multiplayer shooter? Because, you know, you could do the basic thing of just do a normal deathmatch where you just play as the host characters and you just shoot each other.
And they have kind of done that, because one of the game modes is Possession Deathmatch.
Yeah. And
the only real difference between what you were saying is that they still have you play as a ghost at the start.
Yeah.
And you just possess a guy, and that's kind of it.
Yeah. That's the twist, really. Remember what I mentioned before about how the kind of resource management isn't in terms of ammunition, but rather in hosts?
Yes.
They kind of do that with the multiplayer by effectively having a bunch of hosts standing around these maps.
It's a bunch of guys standing there like, yep.
Yeah, they just stand there completely brainlessly.
Yeah.
That you possess, and they each have different weapons. They only have one each. And it's very hard to tell sometimes which one they have, because it's quite a low poly game.
Yeah, yeah.
But with that, that's your kind of set of normal weapons and power weapons that you kind of use.
Yeah, it's like if like on a Halo map, like you went to go where the shotgun spawn and there was just a guy holding it.
Yeah,
and you had to like get it off him.
And you became that guy. Yeah. But
problem with this mode though, and this really amuses me, is that you can get a 1-point lead and then unpossess your guy.
And you can't do
because you can't shoot the ghost. The ghost is invincible.
No, the ghosts take forever to die as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Like in terms of that gradual bleed out of the energy. Like you can just do that.
Yeah. And like if you wanted to like reverse it, you could just like possess a guy for a brief moment and then unpossess him again, and then you have all your energy back.
Yeah. If there's some kind of anti-ghost weapon that we're missing that we didn't notice while we were doing this.
So we didn't do a comprehensive overview of the Ghost multiplayer. We didn't get all the host collectibles. We didn't see everything that the game had to offer, but
sadly didn't.
Yeah.
But at any rate, we did decide to try every single mode. We didn't try every map. I noticed that there were 5 or 6, and we only played about 3 of them.
Yeah, I'm distraught we didn't do base.
We didn't do base. No,
yeah, I was looking forward to base, but someone was sick of playing Geist.
Yeah, they're all called like really bland things like...
Because you kept losing at Geist.
Hey, listen.
Yeah.
I was great at the capture the host mode.
Yeah, you were pretty good at that.
Because in the one map that we played capture the host in, if you had like the landmine hosts, you could just throw them around for one capture point.
So capture the host is, there's like in Possession Deathmatch, there's a bunch of hosts standing around, but you have to move them to this spot on the map and score them as points.
Yeah.
And if you have a landmine, you can just throw your landmine on the thing, and your other guy will run up to it and blow up, and it's stupid.
You can just blow up the other player. And also they like the particular map we played, I don't think it was called Transit, but it was like a
Subway.
It was Subway.
Yeah.
all of the hosts spawn almost directly. Like a bunch of them spawn very quickly around the possession point.
Yeah.
They're all over the map, but there's not really much of a point to do that. Unless...
Yeah, like I made the mistake of going, oh, we've got all the guys in the center, I'll go out further afield. And then while I was doing that, guys were just respawning at the center that you were just putting into the base. And it's like, fantastic, great.
I guess I will note that I think it was both of these modes did have the option to have up to 8 players. I believe you can do bots and 4 players.
I think it's 4 players and then bots. But it is cool to see the game has a full suite of bots. So if you want to be doing... If you have no friends, if you're a loner out there and you want to play Geist multiplayer, they have it provided for you.
I mean, dude, I love bot games.
Yeah,
I mentioned Star Wars Battlefront 2 earlier. That game, the most fun I have with it is... Well, not the most fun I have with it. But I have fun with that game just fighting the bots.
Yeah, it's the same with me and Time Splitters 2, where you just watch these dumb little guys running around doing their dumb little moves.
Yeah, I want bots back for multiplayer games. Like, if servers are gonna die, give me bots. Black Ops 1 has bots. Call of Duty Black Ops 1 and Gears of War.
Phil Spencer, if you're out there, when you buy the entire industry, make everyone have bots.
Please.
I know you can't even finish a Halo game, but I believe in you.
Poor Infinite. There was, Capture the Host. And then there was perhaps the most unique mode, which was Hunt.
Hunt, yes. Hunt is very interesting, and also very good, because I kept winning at it.
You fucking did, because you're a master of mashing the buttons.
Yeah.
I'm not, and I can't fucking aim for shit with the Geist controls.
Yeah. So the premise of Hunt is that one of you is playing as the ghost, and one of you is playing as the host. And the objective of the ghost is to possess the character and move them into these dumb death traps that are all over the map, like fans and like electricity that's loose and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then the host has a ghost killing gun that can be used to kill ghosts. You have like a life system basically.
Yeah.
And the first to deplete all their lives loses.
It was kind of fun to actually play
I had the most fun with Hunt.
Yeah.
Because it was just very silly.
It was very silly. Like I had a pretty good time with it. But...
And like every time like the other ghost possesses you, you're like, no, fuck off, you get out of here, leave me alone.
Like, or it's not something I would ever want to play for a long period of time because I'm not planning to develop repetitive strain injury anytime soon.
And you're not so willing to get your ass handed to you over and over.
When we play Halo 2, we're gonna do that multiplayer, and I'm gonna fucking spank you.
That's fine. I'll always have Geist.
We'll always have Geist.
Yeah, Geist will always be waiting for me.
Just a beautiful romantic scene of you and John Raimi at the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah. Listen, he's a man that made me go straight.
Powerful. But
yeah, I can see the headlines now. John Raimi made me go straight. Oh, that was a joke I kept making during the playing of this game, is that this is going to make transphobes go crazy.
What?
And it's like, people out there identifying as cops and as cats. And,
oh my god.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. It's just crazy.
Geist is corrupting the youth.
Geist has left an indefinite mark upon our generation.
A nasty gash upon the fabric of culture.
That's a great way of putting it. But... that's really all that we have left to talk about Geist, really.
Well, I have one thing I want to say about Geist. One of my favourite sections is to talk about the box art of the games that we're playing.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, and we do have a copy of Geist here, as we have had for all the games that we played thus far. And the box art for Geist is, busy. Yeah. I'd say the word is. It's got, like, this Marine at the front, and he's kind of, like, thrusting his arms forward, and he's like, Yeah. Because he's being possessed by Sam Raimi at the very moment. And it's something really weird about it, you know?
Yeah, you've got the main villain of the game in the corner, looking scowling.
There's like a bunch of little dudes at the bottom. The little fun little guys.
The little orange ghosts that assail you.
And then like people like rappelling in from helicopters.
Onto a facility. Yeah. It looks like an aircraft hangar. And
they've really been trying with the logo treatment, because it's like all lowercase and it's like this really scratchy font. And like next to the eye there's like a figure of a man.
Yeah, there's a faint silhouette of him.
But he's too defined, and he's not close enough near the eye for it to really work. Because it also means they have to have this really weird empty space of like white ooze above all the letters to like make it seem consistent.
Yeah.
And then on the back there's this incredible illustration of this big like spirit. Like he looks like one of the Titans from the end of Hercules.
And you got Gigi and John Raimi at the back there as well. Two very unflattering screenshots where one of them looks like the most generic shooter game ever.
And then like a weird render of John Raimi.
Is that a cum man? What is that?
I don't know. That's a man made of goo.
That's a bright white man being assailed by like wisps of.
And it has one of my favorite video game things where it's like, you can do that thing, but the thing you can do is so niche that how is it meant to appeal to anyone? Where it just says take possession, and it's like, oh, finally a game where I can take possession.
Oh, dude.
Now I gotta buy Geist.
Yeah, this game didn't do very well, did it?
No, Geist. Apparently there were plans to make a DS version of Geist, which. Please hold your applause for the DS version of Geist.
I'm holding it.
Unfortunately, we were spared the joy of seeing this game running on a DS. But other than that, Geist has kind of wallowed in ignorance for the last 16 or so years. Like, no one really talks about Geist. The only time someone would mention Geist is if they're, like, going through the list of M-rated games that Nintendo has published. That's kind of the only context Geist exists in now.
Yeah. And that's kind of sad that's
I mean, you have to applaud their creativity and their good ideas, but it just never comes together in the way that you'd like it to.
Not at all. Well, this has been very harsh, brutalizing of Geist. Well, I say that we've tried to be fairly sympathetic towards it, but
yeah, I think the thing about Geist is that sometimes we have games that aren't as low quality as another game. So I wouldn't say Geist is anywhere near as bad as Shadow the Hedgehog.
No.
But we had a much better time playing Shadow the Hedgehog. It was a much funnier experience.
Yeah, I guess that's a good segue into just doing like a ranking thing here and saying in terms of quality, because that's a good point to make. Is that I think that it's actually
for me, Geist is like low middle of the road. Like it's not terrible, but I wouldn't say it's particularly competent or good.
Yeah. I don't have to be precise with the rankings here, so I guess I would say that I put Geist as low on the quality list. I don't think it's rock bottom, but it's in that same area as kind of Shadow the Hedgehog, where I actually think that if you fuck up the controls like that, it's a lot of fundamental problems there that I think really bring it down.
And I think like a lot of the bosses were some of the most frustrating and tedious sections of a game that we've done so far. Like we were just not having fun during those parts.
Yeah.
I can actually do it pretty solidly where I'd say it's currently RE4, Signalis, Clock Tower, Geist, Shadow.
In terms of quality, yeah? Yeah, I think I would say Resident Evil 4, Signalis, Clock Tower 3, Shadow the Hedgehog, and Geist. Yeah, that's not really much of a competition.
No. I think for me, Shadow just runs so poorly that I can't give it that praise. At least this game is like technically competent.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does actually run,
Yeah.
and the graphics are decent on it, even if the art design isn't so much, like art direction.
Yeah. Listen, Geist's technical performance with Shadow's art direction, and that's a game I'd like to see.
Oh,
With Signalis' gameplay.
oh, Shadow. You know what?
And Kuroda is there.
You know what? Signalis and Shadow the Hedgehog both have very similar color palettes in a way.
Oh yeah, that black and red. Yeah. One of them maybe uses it slightly better, but it's up to you to guess which one. I'll leave that up to your ears, listener.
We'll open a poll.
Yeah.
You to vote. Now, however, in terms of interesting, where's Geist? Because I might put my piece forward if you are still ruminating.
Yeah, go ahead. I need to think about it.
So I actually think Geist is fascinating.
Okay.
I think that its concept is very interesting, and I find it a huge shame that it fails to kind of match its sort of expectations. But it's cool. It's a cool idea, and the fact that it kind of flops the way it does as well. It's like they haven't learned the right lessons from their peers in the industry at that point in time. There was a meddling and sort of a muddle between what its vision was going to be. I would put this quite high. It's not at the top. I don't think it resonates in a particular way with me, but I think it's very interesting. I think maybe even higher than Shadow.
I mean, Shadow isn't that interesting to me.
Okay, I find Shadow very interesting, but that's because I like games where I'm like, what happened to you?
Yeah.
Where did that go?
So I think I'm kind of trending in a similar direction, but I think for me, I think Geist is objectively interesting as a piece of history. I just don't care about it. Like, it doesn't really strike me as a game that I'd want to know that much more about, and I haven't ever really thought about it that much since we finished playing it.
That's a good point.
Like, it's like I look at it and I'm like, oh, it's weird that Nintendo were doing these mature games, and it's an interesting premise, but I don't actually want to know more about it.
No, I think it's just more like on a premise level. I think it was interesting.
I think for me it's middle.
Yeah. And in terms of fun,
probably the least fun I've had with you. in our lives.
Ow! You know what? I can't take that personally. It's Geist's fault.
No, it's Geist's fault. Because there are other games that we've not enjoyed. I hated Lost Planet 2, for instance. But Geist was just so nothing to me. And it was so frustrating. It took so long. And the kind of like the context in which we were playing it really didn't help. I had no fun playing Geist.
I think it might be...
Amazed it didn't kill the list.
Yeah, right early on as well. I mean... Yeah, I think I'd put it near the bottom. I'm not sure if I'd say it's the least fun that we've had doing this, but it's I think about that dog biscuit bit. I think about the spongy bosses. I think about just the tedium of the kind of like constant being possessed by the orange ghosts and then having to constantly mash to get out of them.
Think about my poor mum and my ill-forgotten cat.
Yeah, poor old Marley.
Yeah.
Please donate £2 a month to your local cat shelter to remember Marley, who is still alive, but
he's very old.
He's very old.
He's very sleepy.
Do it for Marley. Give Marley a sweet dream.
Yeah, I'm glad that we finally got to talk about Marley on this podcast.
Marley is a very important part of the list.
Yeah,
he's dare I say it, he is maybe a greater gamer than both of us.
That's true.
I love that you thought about it.
Well, I wouldn't call myself a gamer, Connor.
Oh.
Because I don't like to categorize myself like that.
Oh, I see.
But Marley is pretty epic.
Marley is... Can't fucking say that.
Yeah, so...
yeah. Well, that was Geist.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that we recorded Signalis, I think, at like midnight.
Yeah.
I'm somehow more tired after Geist.
Yeah, we've been sitting in this fucking microwave of a room for the last 2 hours just talking about Geist. And it's made all the more incredulous by how little of the game we remember. I feel like we've just been sitting here and we're just like, yeah, so there was orange guys running around and we had to throw dog biscuits, I think. I don't fucking know.
Think about how much sheer passion we had for Resident Evil 4 and the kind of like the interpersonal kind of memory sharing we had of Signalis and with Shadow the Hedgehog, our enthusiasm for Clock Tower, and then we're just sitting here in the quagmire of Geist,
wallowing in the muck of avarice.
Geist is really like the Ghost Marshes of Lord of the Rings, where we're just pulled in by a spectre, really.
I think Geist is very much a game that I'm glad is now out of the way, and we can go back to talking about more interesting games in future.
That we are. Yeah. So, Ash, would you like to promote anything while we are here?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've got some big projects in the works. I got some real pieces of shit coming out that you people need to be excited about. Listen, if you've ever wanted to read a dissertation-length essay on Final Fantasy 13-2, keep an eye on my blog, because, you don't know what's coming.
You are not doing a very good job of selling your work.
Listen, my work is what it is, and if people want to engage with that, that's fine.
You know what? That's fair. That's kind of how I treat the podcast. It's just something that if you want to listen to this,
we're doing this for us.
Yeah, and if you've made it this far, thank you very much for joining us on this, because we have
the fifth episode now.
It is episode number 5. It's I guess a landmark.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. I think now there's a selection. You can make a decent. This is like a good 10 hours you could listen to us talking about games.
True, yeah. So. And I guess in the meantime, we look forward to eventually getting to like landmark number 10.
Yeah, we got big plans for number 10.
That we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you very much for listening. Please check out the other videos on the ThunderPsyker channel, and if you'd like to hear more from me, my main channel is ThunderPsyker. I'm currently making a kind of broader slew of videos at the moment. I believe by the time this is going to be out, I'll have a video on beginning and ending a decade with Halo Reach. Just a video I wanted to make for a long time, talking about the 2010s and how Halo Reach's sort of release and re-release on PC was an interesting little nutshell to kind of keep the whole kind of area of gaming in.
So he's not talking about 13.2, so don't get too excited.
No. Final Fantasy 13.2 has its own place in the 2010s,
exactly,
which is very special in itself. But thank you very much for listening. I hope that you have a wonderful day. Yeah. And in the meantime,
make good choices. Ciao.
Take care, everyone. What possessed us to do this?